Welcome, everybody, as this is the Arthouse Legends videocast. I am the movie dude Eric. Along with me are...
Kent?
And John Lobster.
And we are going to be doing a theatrical release once more for our vidcast. We're going to be talking about Disney Pixar's Inside Out. If you follow me on Twitter, you know just how excited I've been about this film practically from the first moment they showed a trailer. I have been just jazzed about this, and I can't wait to talk about this movie. I don't get a chance to talk about this movie with anybody, so this is going to be really exciting. But were y'all as excited about Inside Out as I am, or am I alone in this one?
I think the trailers got me excited, and then kind of like the buzz leading up to the film, because like the premise of it, I don't know if you guys have seen this meme that's going around, which is basically like Pixar's logic, like, what if toys have feelings? What if bugs have feelings?
Yeah.
What if fish have feelings?
What if feelings
What
have
if
feelings?
have feelings? And I was like, all right, Pixar, like you're getting a little carried away. Yeah, meta, exactly. But the premise, and then like listening to Pete Docter kind of like talk about it, and like what he wanted to do. I really did start to get excited for actually seeing it. So I was excited for this one.
What about you, Kent?
I actually wasn't that excited, and then watching a trailer, I was like, this is going to make me cry. This is another one of those movies. Damn you, Pixar! It's like, I don't want to cry.
Straight in the feels.
I want to... Yeah. So this
I'll
week...
be honest, after Cars 2 and Monsters University,
Right.
Yeah.
which I absolutely hated Monsters University. I was like fuming, screaming mad about that movie. I was worried that that was going to be the end of Pixar, especially considering that we're going to be seeing more sequels coming out.
Right. They really... Yeah,
Yeah.
once they went back to Disney, they really did have the sequelitis kind of take over. And I mean, I was on board with Toy Story 3, but that was probably the last Pixar film that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
What
Well,
happened? Feelings. Yeah.
Right. I mean, but again, that's one that I connected with emotionally. So I didn't really have that emotional connection to the monsters or the cars. So it wasn't, again, the monsters having feelings and the cars having feelings did not draw me to the movie theater.
Well, I liked Monsters, Inc., and I like Cars to an extent. I know that it's not a favorite with everybody. But I will say, though, that when I saw the first trailers for Inside Out, I immediately felt like this was going to be something interesting. I didn't know if it was going to be great or not. But Pete Docter, who made Up, was a filmmaker that I really appreciated what he was doing in that film, especially the first 10 minutes, although the rest of the film, I'll be honest, didn't really live up to that first 10 minutes, but how could you? The first 10 minutes were nearly perfect. But I will say, though, that with Inside Out, I knew that there was good pedigree going in. The question was whether it was going to live up to that pedigree.
I just knew Lewis Black was in it, and at that point, I was like, "Yeah, I have to see
it."
Right. I mean, if you
and he's playing Anger. What else could he play?
That's like perfect casting. Like, I mean, especially I think the casting in this film was one of its strengths, and something that got me excited about seeing it, because again, the cast was announced, and you knew who was going to play who. Now, like, if you've seen Parks and Recreation, and you've seen Amy Poehler's Leslie Knope when she's hopped up on waffles, like, you know that she's the embodiment of joy. It's a very easy connection to make, and Mindy Kaling is discussed, and Bill Hader is so great at doing voices, like he could do anything.
With me, Phyllis Smith was one of the casting choices that I thought was awesome, because
ideal casting is sadness, right? And Phyllis is in The Office. She's done a couple other things. Yes. And obviously Lewis Black, if anybody's going to be Anger, it's that guy.
Perfect.
That's how it is. That's how it is. John?
That said, other than like Richard Kind as Bing Bong, I don't know if I didn't really realize who the parents were
Kyle MacLachlan from Dune and
Right,
Blue
but
Velvet.
it just his voice didn't connect with me with the character, so I didn't even realize it was him until after. I mean, I know who he is, but I don't think he brought anything
Really?
particular to it. I mean, I liked Richard Kinda's Bing Bong. Um,
I
but
recognize the voice right away.
yeah,
so,
I recognize the voice, but I didn't put it to his name
It's that,
until
it's
afterwards.
that guy from who was on that episode of Stargate.
Yeah. No, I
And the
mean,
movie,
and he's
actually. Yeah.
he's the mayor
Seen
of
a lot.
Gotham on my podcast, Gotham Nightline. But like,
Plug.
he's great, but like, I didn't really connect him until afterwards. And other than that, I don't think really any of the voices stood out that much to me. But again, in terms of casting the core emotions, I think they did a great job.
By the way, did y'all see the voices for the other people's heads? Some of them were really awesome. Like Rashida Jones.
Rashida Jones, yeah.
Was one of them. I'm sorry, I don't have IMDb up right now, but there was like a whole. They actually got a really good cast, even for the small voices.
Right, the cameos.
That said, they should have gotten the guy who did Doug to do the dog's voice. When they did the Inside the Dog set at the end. That would have been just awesome.
Just in the Pixar universe, all dogs sound like that.
Yes, I mean,
except for the one with the really high voice.
Oh, John Ratzenberg was in this.
Yes, he was.
Okay, I was like trying to keep an eye out, and it's like he was Fritz. Okay, missed it. Flea was in it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, so we obviously, since we're talking about Pete Docter, who has been known to shed a few tears at the Pixar movies he's done, how many times have you cried in this movie? And be honest.
It was a steady trickle, probably most of the movie, culminating in some nose blowing towards the very end.
Did not cry. Came close about every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
I'm gonna say that I had I did tear up at I want to say like 3 or 4 different places, which is very different for me because I don't do that with a lot of films. It really has to hit hard for me to tear up. I think for me, Shawshank Redemption and E.T. are like the ones that really do that for me. But
this is a movie about feelings and emotions.
It
so
is.
Of course,
and
it's going to hit you right
it delivers.
there.
I mean, if it didn't, I don't think we'd be talking about it. Like if you went through this entire film and you saw a film about feelings, but it didn't make you experience any, then it would just be a waste. And kudos to them for doing it and doing it well, but not like this. I probably was more emotional at the end of Toy Story 3, but I wasn't as emotional the whole way through. I might have been more emotional at the beginning of Up, but then that didn't really stick with it through the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it was constant. I'm emotionally invested in what's going on.
Yeah. Well, for me, Pixar hit me in the motion spot, I think, 3 places. Obviously, the first 10 minutes of Up. If you're not in tears after that first 10 minutes, you're inhuman. I'm sorry. That hits right where it hurts.
Well, it's a better love story in the first 10 minutes than most movies do in 2 hours. So, and then it goes into the happy-go-lucky of school.
Yeah. And then, of course, when Nemo's mom dies in that opening, you really feel it hard. And then I want to say, and it's really hard, for me right now, I'm starting to tear up right now, I'm just remembering, but Jessie's story, when she talks about what happened to her and her girl. That, that song, damn it! Sir MacLachlan.
I will remember.
No, I know that song that she sang in Toy Story 3. That will stick with me. Even when I just hear the first 3 or 4 bars, tears start to come down because I remember that scene. But
of course, if you're a fan of the theory that the mother is Jessie's original owner,
I don't know.
It's a confusing theory, but
there's so many theories with Pixar films, including that they all take place in the exact same universe, just in different periods in time, and that's crazy.
Well, this one could easily fit the Toy
Yeah.
Story verse. So
Because it's all under the surface. You don't, you know,
yeah,
if unless you're zoomed into somebody's brain to find out.
yeah.
But let's okay. So we talked about emotions. Let's talk about the actual story and plot
I
of
would
the.
like to talk about Riley first because
Yeah,
I think
she's
that
the main
that's
character.
I think that a lot of people they like to talk about Riley's emotions, but for me, that this is what's perfect and what's amazing about Inside Out is that your stakes actually is a human being,
Hmm.
and that you worry about this human being. Anything that these emotions do wrong or any mistakes they make affects her. So every time that they do something, like even with sadness, just touches something, you already have an investment because you don't want to see this little girl get hurt. And the fact that it's an 11-year-old girl is perfect because for a preteen specifically, and the emotional trauma that what's going to happen to her in this film, and it might seem slight, but I think that's what's great about it is that it's not harrowing to the point where you're worried about her physically. You're worried about her emotional states. And so that puts more emphasis on the emotion part
Hmm.
than anything. So you're not worrying about her, actually getting hurt or killed. Uh, Especially for a first film, I don't think that they should go there. But uh, again, I love how they make the connection between joy and Riley specifically because joy was the first emotion that showed up. And I
Hmm.
love how they connected joy with sadness. Uh, how those two are bound together in a way that this entire film is going to explore. And for me, I'll say it right now, obviously I wrote an article about it that's on GunnaGeek.com. I actually think Joy and Sadness are far superior to Woody and Buzz. These two the relationship that they form in this movie isn't rife with this kind of neurotic cruelty that Woody and Buzz have between one another. Specifically, Woody and how he feels about Buzz specifically, which
Right.
is really creepy and really. Uh, Parents now probably should be more concerned about Woody than and it's just weird having them in like Disney parks, kind of, playing the buddy buddy when Woody is not a good character at all.
When he's off trying to kill Buzz.
I'm not just killing Buzz, but I mean he's so narcissistic, and cares about no one but himself. I mean, throughout all three movies. But joy and sadness, I mean, they're bound together. They can't get rid of one another. You can't. Or let me put it this way: you probably could live without them, but it would ruin Riley's emotional states up so badly. Just one of them not being there would cause her
Right.
great distress. And I love how the film makes it very clear. I mean, even from the beginning, that there are certain emotions that take precedent, but as you grow older, each emotion starts to build and starts to grow. Um, like with disgust. Disgust, especially when Riley starts the new school, she takes over and she's right. She's the one that starts looking and sees the social order of the school. She's the one who realizes what they need to do, what they don't want to do, who the people that they want to be around, and that sets up a really great character that that isn't just there to be obnoxious. And especially with Mindy Kaling, who I love, but let's be honest here, she can be really annoying if she's not used properly. And I think they used her to her fullest extent here. And then, of course, you have Lewis Black, who, every time that he just loses it, it's kind of like seeing the Hulk on
We could
film.
use that one curse word we know. It's a good one.
Can I
And
use
then
it now?
yes.
Can I
Using
use
that
it
curse
now?
word now?
And then at the end, he has a whole list of
Yeah.
curse words.
It's a whole
Yeah.
panel of
So happy
nothing but
about.
curse words. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of the emotions themselves, I thought this is kind of interesting. With every other person, they have a singular sex of emotions.
Yes.
Like Mom has all women,
gonna bring
Dad
that
has
up.
all men.
Hmm.
Riley has a mix of men and women emotions.
Well, and also if you look like in the father, anger is kind of the dominant archetype,
Yes.
right.
and in the
And
and in the
Mom
mother,
is sadness.
it's sadness, which is
Sadness,
kind of
yeah.
interesting. So, I mean, I think that as well is interesting. And
Well, one,
in the teenage boy, they're all kind of fear
yeah.
when he reacts to the.
I love that.
Oh,
I
that
love
was
that
good.
scene.
But and then I forget what they were in the teacher. Was
The
it-
teacher, I think it was. I think it was discussed. Was the,
Was
the
yeah.
But-
Certainly the other teenage girl, the Rashida Jones,
Was
kind of
fear.
like.
I know.
Yeah.
So
I love how with some of the emotions they kind of are going against what you would think they would, especially with the cool girl. We realize just how terrified she is. And another thing I have to give it to Pixar, they actually got a child psychologist to help them with getting the emotional states of prepubescence.
they
Down.
did their homework on this, and it
They
really shows,
did.
and especially such a big part of the film is the journey through the subconscious.
Yeah.
So you go
Oh,
through where imagination takes place, where dreams take place, where like abstract thought.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite sequences.
The world building in
They're
this
taking
movie
you
is
through
incredible.
like, oh no, now we're just
Now we're just-
shape and color. Like
Yeah.
that's just great.
What
Like,
are we? We're being deconstructed. What?
right, exactly. That was fantastic. And
The world building alone is
Right.
amazing in this film. I love how they establish the control, but they establish the islands of the core emotions, and with each
sure.
core emotion builds a new island. I love how they establish that as she is a younger girl, the emotions are specifically kind of rooted in one emotion or another.
Mm-hmm.
But as you start to see, as she gets older, there's more complexity in those emotions,
Right.
and there's more of a teamwork element that's playing, and not just I'm going to take over and you're going to take over. And
Right.
of course, when they get the new control panel at the end, it's where all of them can sit at the same
Huge.
time and
Yeah.
and do their part.
And has a warning beacon on it for puberty. Yeah.
Puberty, not
What's that?
Puberty.
What's puberty?
What is that? I don't know. It probably. Well,
that's
that,
the sequel right there.
Yeah,
Someone's
but-
going to
well,
hit that button.
That's one issue I've seen come up is there's a theory that, like you said, everyone but Riley, all the emotions are either male or female, but
Yeah.
in her they're mixed. So there was one theory out there that she's gender fluid. She's not actually completely what we'd call straight as a girl.
Mhm.
The other theory is maybe it's puberty hits and they
Right.
all
Then
align.
it solidifies.
I'm
yeah.
I'm
Well,
curious
at the
to see
same
if that's
time-
the case.
But if that's the case, then female Lewis Black, who could do it?
Melissa McCarthy, serious.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true. It's just.
But to be honest, I mean, this is a movie that rarely do I want to see a Pixar sequel.
Mhm.
The Incredibles
This
is
could be
one. This is another. I
But
I
at the
really
same
want to see what they
time,
go here.
What sequel would you do?
Puberty. I mean,
Well, I mean,
you could set up a whole line. I mean, because as long as Riley is growing, there's a whole bunch of new emotions that are going to be going through. There's an endless amount of stories that they could do with this, and it's all about just picking the right ones. But obviously, the next one, if they do a sequel, and I hope they do, it's puberty, because first off, when they hit that puberty button, that's going to cause all 5 characters to have new relationships with one another, probably at odds with one another.
Right. Well, when the hormones start flooding through the
Yeah.
system, like that's where the thing kind of goes crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
although I have to admit, I love the boyfriend creator.
The boyfriend
Yeah.
generator.
I'm from Canada.
And that I
Yeah.
mean, that's great how they set up the mechanics of that. I mean, the train of thought being a literal train, and the sort of like boyfriend replicator, that there's an infinite number, so that they can actually like use that as like a means of transportation.
I die for
Can we talk
Riley.
about the non-emotion main character?
Bing Bong.
Bing Bong?
Bing bong.
Oh man, I'll be honest right here. Bing Bong, that was one of those places where he actually had 2 of the moments where I was gonna lose it. When the rocket ship goes into the cavern.
Yeah.
The way that Bing Bong responds to that was just heartbreaking. And then, of course, when he sacrifices himself for Joy. But I have to admit, I love how Joy gets herself in that position, though,
Mhm.
because Joy has always had this kind of acceptance of sadness up to this particular point, and now it's like she can get home, but if she takes sadness with her, it's not going to work. And of course, when she does take it, it doesn't work, and it actually puts her in a worse position. This is actually better, in my opinion, than like when Woody finds himself at the hands of Sid in that first Toy Story movie, because Joy's actions put her in this position, but at the same time, it also forces her to understand sadness. In that scene with the emotion when she rewinds it, I actually did. I lost it there, because for me that was what I was hoping that this movie would be. That this movie that we think it's about joy, but it's really about sadness. And sadness, especially with the fact that there's a passive aggressiveness between joy and sadness. Joy is like distracting her, trying to keep her away from the panel, and sadness retaliates by touching things.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to touch it.
Touch. No, don't touch it.
But I love how they use the little pipes to push emotions back and forth, and of course the gum commercial that was perfect.
That's the only problem I had for a plot point is, couldn't they try and emergency send the core memories they're carrying back through and just shove them in and go, let hate and anger and fear figure out what to do with them. It's like, oh wait, this, plug it in, and like, okay.
I loved it. I love the fact
I know the gum commercial though. It's like, oh, let's see what's going on with it. No!
I love that the brain elements are like, let's mess with the control panel. Let's send this.
Yeah.
I thought that was just awesome, and of course when it's Lewis Black who's having to respond to that gum commercial was again how they repeated it over and over again, just the places you just didn't see it happening. Right. I thought was just awesome.
I enjoyed like the use of Anger's head volcano to actually melt the glass at the end to get them in.
I'm curious because none of the other emotions. Well, I guess sadness is able to change things with her touch.
Yeah.
But you don't really see a power come out of the other.
Well, Joy glows. She glows constantly.
Yeah.
She's no matter where she is, she's lighting up the area. So she emits a glow.
It would be nice if that actually worked for something though. Like if they were in a dark place and she was the light that got them
certainly
through.
when they were down in the chasm of forgotten things, you could see her in the distance kind of glowing. But yeah, I mean it would be cool if they made more of them having unique attributes and things like that. But certainly as a sight gag, the
fire. Yeah.
Yes.
Not to be confused with the lava in the opening short, but
okay, well, let's talk about lava right quick, because I couldn't believe just how many people who didn't like that short. I mean, it's not their best, but it's not. I mean, I guess it's because Inside Out was just so great that it just made it clear that lava was not up to that par.
And I think, especially with a film like Inside Out, you can't really do a short that's too detailed and too plot driven. So just something with a song and just an idea, that's really something that you need to go along kind of contrasting to it.
I think in some ways it is geologically semi-accurate.
Yeah.
So
sort of. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I don't think the volcano would shrink that far down over time as the other one's coming up, but yeah, they would. That is kind of how it works. So.
Okay, well, what did y'all think of Dream Productions? The Dream where the Dream Studio.
Well, I like that there's a filter that just kind of
yes.
changes the reality filter.
Yeah, just puts every perception filter, makes everything correct, and I mean, I assume that's pretty much how dreams work, but and they said something like, well, let's look at the day's take, and they kind of they look at the memories and stuff from that day and then incorporate that.
I thought that all of that was really well done. I love how the way that the filter itself is kind of not just that it helps to to create the scenes that they're trying to do, but it also has this way of being very crazy. Like when they were trying to do the whole dog thing, and of course it cuts in half when the costume doesn't work. Which I have to admit, that was one of the best scenes with Fear. That
very dramatic. That would
so
be
the
very,
filter makes it a horror film. Like, why? Yeah.
And then, of course, the subconscious. I would have loved if we could have been in the subconscious a little bit longer, because the way they set that up was just so awesome. And, of course, seeing that clown, which I had no problem with clowns. I had a problem with that clown.
Well, terrifying.
I mean,
they really... a scary clown.
Well, and the fact that he was making poor Bing Bong cry just because he wanted the candy.
Yeah.
He just wanted the candy.
Oh, man. But I love how they use the clown. And, of course, Fear's response to the clown, I think, was just brilliant. The fact that he just cowers underneath the panel, just waiting for daylight to occur, which I was just awesome. I have to admit, I love how they set up the stakes with the islands and the islands falling down, and especially the 5 islands that they have.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and you really felt, especially when each island fell, as part of Riley's emotions start to go out.
Personality, yeah.
Her personality just starts to plummet, and you see how those particular things fall.
Right.
You know, when she doesn't do well at the hockey tryout and is angry at herself because she can't do it, that island falls. You know, she has an argument with a friend. The island falls, and when you realize that she's running away from home, for me specifically, I was like, "Oh my God, that island's gonna fall!"
Yeah.
And for me, for some reason, the way that they set it up, that island falling was more terrifying for me than any other stake. I mean, even the Avengers didn't have that kind of stake set up that I felt that kind of tension, because at any moment, in the way that the panel turned black when she just went numb,
mm-hmm.
and all of these choices that they made were just brilliant, and I love the fact that it was anger that set that idea. It makes sense that these emotions would make the decisions that they did,
mm-hmm.
Which, especially in children's films, usually you don't have a whole lot of rational thinking when it comes to children's films because, I mean, who's going to care? And here it's actually important that we understand how Riley and how these emotions get to the point that they do, so that it builds the stakes as high as it does. And again, I just loved it. I loved how they set that all up, and of course, setting up that Sadness is the one that has to save the day.
Right.
The scene with her and her parents.
Sometimes you just gotta have a good cry. You just gotta cry it out.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like sadness is important in order to heal. It's important to cope. And what Riley went through was, for her, extremely traumatic, and and she needed to have that catharsis with her family and be able to admit, and I love how they set up that she's always been happy and she's always done such a good job.
Yeah.
That they kind of assume that she's not, feeling anything. And I love the fact that Joy realizes that she had alphaed too much.
Right.
And took over too much to the point where she actually could be hurting Riley by not letting her let go and to feel the other emotions that are inside her. And, and I love the growth that Joy has in this film, which again, of course, I hope that they do a sequel of, and we actually get more of these characters and see them develop, see them become more bound together, especially now that they have to really work together and not just take turns. That they have to kind of temper each other to make Riley a complete person. But what do y'all think? I'm sorry, I'm taking over.
Well, I did see somebody made up a chart at one point that showed what emotions would be the result of the emotions cooperating.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
joy and sadness is melancholy.
Yeah.
Joy, what was it? Joy and anger is righteous fury, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. It's not something she's experienced yet, but
Yeah.
you know, in a year or two, she's like, I was right, damn it.
Disgust and fear is that broccoli pizza. Congratulations, San
Yeah.
Francisco.
Yes.
Ruined
That
pizza.
basically was that. Yeah.
Yeah.
She has succeeded in combining the broccoli. Did they really do that?
I will say that this film, like the humor in this film, for the amount of times that you're being pummeled with emotion, the humor in this film is pretty great. And even like you know, you've made jokes about the train of thought before and stuff like that, but like even just as a sight gag, like it all works.
The comment. I don't think there's bears out there, are they? I don't know. I saw a really hairy guy out there. It's like, oh my god!
Yes, like some of that. Like
there are times when I
absolutely
wonder if
works.
Lewis Black had some part to play in the screenplay, because it just feels so natural for Lewis Black to say the things that he does.
No, do they do the lines first, then animate over them?
I have a feeling that there was a fair amount of improvisation.
Yeah.
That went on.
If they do that, then yeah, he probably did go, dang it, I can't use any of my words. But
I mean, with the vocal production aspect of it, you can kind of like you can get your take, and then you can be like, okay, why don't you just riff for like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll go through, because they're you know, it's a much more efficient process, because you know you've got the script in front of you. You can go through, do your lines. You don't have to worry about lighting, this, that, and the other thing. And then you've got time to just play around. Or they can come up with an idea later. They don't have to reshoot a big scene with extras and everything. They just call you on the phone and be like, hey, could you say this? And yeah, okay, great, got it.
Yeah. Background check and boom, done.
I mean, again, I think this film delivered on the emotions. It delivered on the visuals. I mean, the stunning use of color, especially in this.
Love the animation. I love how the emotions feel. The emotions actually feel like they're like particles kind of together, especially with Joy specifically, because she is so bright that you can see, you know, that she's kind of like she looks kind of like a cloud that's really condensed together. And I actually liked how the humans look in this film, which for animated features,
for Pixar especially, like not always doing a great job with their human characters.
Well, I love how they use the eyes so importantly in this film. I mean, even at the dinner table,
that's a great scene.
The parents communicate, and I'm glad they used that as a trailer part, because that really did convey a lot of the film, what the film is about in that table scene. But I love how eyes, you know, how mom looks at dad, you know, looks at Riley, you know, dad looks at Riley. I love how, I also love how the emotions are capable of playing those replays, and that's kind of like either a fantasy or kind of like a daydreaming kind of thing. You know, dad's thinking about the hockey game for last night. Attention.
Wait a minute, is she looking at us? Yeah, she's looking at us. What did we miss? Yeah,
it's all good. I mean, it's a really creative film. It's probably one of the most inventive things that they've done. I think you know, going back to even Toy Story or Monsters Inc. Like, I mean, to invent that world completely self-contained within the mind, and you know, obeying the rules of the mind and all of that. I mean, I don't think that, like, they've done anthropomorphic rats and cars and stuff like that, and there's cool world building and stuff that they did there, but I mean, I think this is probably the most inventive and science-based, at least on our understanding of the brain.
I did hear a complaint before it came out, when somebody just saw a trailer a couple weeks ago, was, they remade Herman's Head, which was a 90s sitcom that was,
Well,
That was
there's, I
kind
mean,
of the same philosophy, but
anytime you go
no.
inside the body, you know, there's an
Yeah.
Osmosis Jones joke to be made somewhere along there. But
Or Fantastic Voyage.
this wasn't about physiology really. It
Yeah.
was about the kind of the theoretical understanding of the brain
Yeah.
and not necessarily the actual hard wiring of it,
Yeah. Well,
which I appreciated. I will say I think plot wise, it might not be their strongest film. I think that parts of the film felt a little unstructured, and they were just kind of like, okay, well, let's get to the next set piece and the next kind of like theoretical idea that we can throw on.
well, I
But
think that
I
the
think
thing
over,
is that Pixar specifically, when it comes to plots, they prefer to navigate worlds. They want to explore worlds and explore concepts more than intricate plotting. And I'll be honest here, like one of the most detailed plots that I've ever seen in an animated film is Shark Tale, and you can keep that. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I prefer the Pixar kind of let's really dive into this world. Let's see where we can go with this, and not have a heavy-handed story that requires a whole lot of intricacy. I think Ratatouille was their most intricate story.
Yeah, which is probably one of my favorite of the Pixar
Yeah.
films.
And Inside Out is definitely in my top three Pixar movies, and Ratatouille is definitely high up on there, probably even my number two.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I mean, I think Wall-E is fantastic, and Wall-E is another one that deals with some pretty big ideas, but uses the physical beauty of the environment that's being presented, and also the kind of like emotional connections to the characters, and almost Wall-E and Eve and a lot of the characters in that film they don't really have lines, so to speak, and can be quite expressive. So.
Yeah, I think though for me specifically, when it comes to Inside Out, and I hope that they do a sequel. I mean, they have so much room to.
I hope they wait. I hope that they don't say like,
don't rush it. Don't rush it.
We need to put it in production next year, because I think you can give some time and have things occur maybe a little bit more naturally, and also like this is a thing that they can kind of like put on the back burner for a couple of years, say, okay, now we're going to do Riley in puberty, and then if we go another 10 years, and then it's
Riley's wedding.
Yeah, some other big event, or dealing with the death of a parent or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you can do some of those emotional milestones later in life, and
I'd rather do Riley parent first.
I would say that
those emotions
if we're
dealing
going to
with
do a
being a
third
parent.
movie, it'd be Riley leaving home, and
it could be.
Riley
I mean,
College.
I felt like they covered that ground with Toy Story 3, and
not really. Again, because they didn't focus on Andy, they focused on Woody and Buzz and their new home.
Yeah.
That didn't really, and that really didn't. Honestly, it didn't really work for me. So I would love to see them take this on, especially as emotions go. But
the Riley goes to college and starts dating Andy fanfic just started writing itself in my head, and I'm eating shot right now.
I mean, they could do that.
If we're to believe that Riley and Andy are in the same universe, first off, Andy
she is younger.
10 years.
She's
right
12
now,
at the end.
Right
Riley
now, he's
is 12.
probably in his third or fourth year of college. She's 11. When she gets to college, he's going to be, in his 30s. And let's be honest here, Pixar really doesn't need to have that kind of thing going.
Unless you shift the timeline a bit and fudge it.
You could fudge it.
Yeah. You could fudge Toy Story and move his timeline into the future. You can't fudge this timeline, no. This is very set with the startups in San Francisco kind of thing.
Andy received a Buzz Lightyear toy, which came at a specific time when those toys would be prominent. Yeah. They're not prominent now.
That's true.
So he is of his time. Let's just stick with that. Let's just stick with everything.
Good.
I don't want to see that happen unless they're really willing to to go somewhere very deep. That
Yeah.
I don't think they're ready to go, and they want to go. To be honest.
Yeah.
Based on her dream boyfriend that she dreams up, I don't think Andy's going to fit that bill
No.
anyway, at least at this point.
He's not
But
Canadian.
Dash might. Dash from The Incredibles probably would fit that.
Maybe.
No, Dash, The Incredibles we think happened in the 70s, if you were...
That's true.
keep
The
track of it.
timelines on that are really screwed up, too.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's stay out of the timeline. But
Yeah.
we are getting close to the end of our conversation about this. So do y'all have any elements that you wish were part of the movie that we would have been explored more? Are there things that you would love to see come from the sequel that we haven't talked about? If they make a sequel, obviously.
Well, I fell down the rabbit hole for a second to check up some IMDb links. Most of the cast is doing the voices for Infinity's 3.0, and all the emotions are going to be in that, so you'll be able to get
Yes.
emotional figures, which actually I was reading the whole cast list going, Fear can sign up and fight alongside Anakin. Yeah! Nothing wrong could happen with that
Give in to fear.
Yeah.
I mean, I think certainly dealing with more complex emotions and maybe having to reconcile the physical embodiment of those emotions too. I mean, it would be interesting to have, kind of the anger, fear, love child of hate come in and kind of take over for a brief period, or love even, as kind of like a mixture of, I mean, do we even know what that really is? And so kind of like developing that a little bit more. And certainly the Inception like dissection of the interior of the mind and the dreams and the subconscious and all of that. I think there's probably even more to explore there. And
Get its own kind of movie, the subconscious.
Well, I think that any sequel that they do is going to have to go on a journey through that again, and see how it's changed in adulthood. And I kind of feel like as we know that as we grow into adults, concrete reasoning takes over a lot more, and so you have more ordered logic in your thinking. So maybe that there's kind of like a Hal type overseer that wants to impose some type of logic and order on these emotions who really don't want to see themselves governed that way. I think that would be kind of interesting.
It would actually. I actually like that idea a lot. I will say though that one thing I really appreciate about this movie is how they deal with the emotions themselves. Is each character has their own personality, even the smallest character. And I love how the ending deals with that specifically, where we actually see inside the teacher that was there, because we don't know what's really going on inside these people. And yet at the same time, there are secondary characters that we really shouldn't care about or really think much about, and yet we find out they have their own minds, their own thoughts and feelings.
And oddly has the same fantasy about the same helicopter pilot. It's like,
It would have been... I'll be honest, it would have been funny if it were the croissant person that had that fantasy. Or the pizza person.
Pizza person, yeah.
Had that same fantasy. Although I had a feeling again that Pixar would probably never hear the end of it from individuals not named. But again, that would have been hilarious in its own right. But all right, so I guess at this point, is there anything else that you want to bring up before we bring this to a close?
Well, sorry at the driving off a double feature of it and Avengers, so yeah. Avengers was that great emotional cleaner that you could go, I'm about to cry. Oh yeah, Hulk smash! Now we're into it.
Well, you didn't feel that emotion with Black Widow and Hulk. Oh.
So many. I've seen so much hate for that. It's ridiculous.
What about you, Lobster?
Well, I'm always interested to hear what our listeners thought or our viewers thought of the film. So, I mean, the nice thing about this format is we can have comments posted right on the video down in this area. You can click
Wait,
like
you
and
mean
subscribe.
there?
Here,
Okay.
I don't even know. Yeah.
Somewhere there's a button.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a thing.
Just think that we live inside your head too, and that if that doesn't drive you crazy, I don't know what will.
Hello,
Yeah.
Clarice. No. Yeah.
I will say that I cannot wait for my next trip to Disney World because I will be seeking out the emotions and getting
Anger.
the picture with them.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the first of these films, probably since Toy Story, that made me actually want to buy some merchandise and
Yes.
have a little anger sitting
I-
next to the Flash and Batman next to me.
I almost picked up an Anger today, but I saw they also have a line of really tiny ones for
Yeah.
cheap. But all they had was
those would
Bing
be
Bong. So actually, the merch seems to be selling fairly well.
Yeah, I imagine
Which
so.
is-
And they did a really cool job because, like, the emotions look cuddly. Like even anger looks kind of cuddly.
I
so,
know.
Like they're kind of like fuzzy. It's cute.
I can
I'm
cuddle
not
a
gonna
fierce
talk-
whack. Wait.
I'm not going to talk about the merchandise right now because I actually might have another forum to be discussing that a little bit later. I don't want to talk about it just yet, but there's an opportunity for me to talk about the merchandise.
It's a little unfortunate that merchandise powers a lot of the decision for a sequel. And that's just kind of Hollywood now, I guess. So.
Well, I'm not going to talk about that either. That's
Yeah.
for a whole different debate.
Yeah.
But at this particular point, I do want to suggest that you do go ahead and hit that like button down there, show us a little support, throw in a comment about how you like or don't like what we have to say, and subscribe to our channel. We have stuff coming up all the time now. We're definitely putting up new material. I'm hoping to keep it about 2 times a week now, especially that I'm not sick. And and of course, also check out GunnaGeek.com. We have Comic-Con coming up, and they've got a whole bunch of stuff that they're going to be doing.
Oh God, yeah.
Comic-Con. A whole bunch of announcements that they're going to be talking about, and if you want your first-hand news about all of that, GunnaGeek.com is the place to get that information. And of course, there's also Arthouse Legends. I'll be posting links underneath the video to where you can click to subscribe. It, of course, it's also on iTunes, and please, by all means, share what you hear with others and let them know about us, and we'd be really grateful. But at this particular point, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I am the movie dude Eric, along with me.
This is Kent, your professional Lewis Black impersonator. Now hit that like button.
And
John?
this is John a Lobster, and I'm Batman.
Ooh.
And good night.
Good night.